I've completely freed myself from the tyranny of painting with a brush. Right, I do the checks with a brush.
Yeah.
But I mainly paint with a sponge. So I don't like the airbrush aesthetic. I think the airbrush aesthetic has been bad for Warhammer painting. So now I paint with a chunk of sponge.
Right, so guys, let's do our episode 3 of Tale of Four Gamers. So I'm back here with Ed, Aaron, and James, who are all ready and raring. Ed is living in some sort of void space at the moment.
Our roles.
Yeah, but never mind. And basically what we'll do is we will basically try and focus a bit more this episode on the armies and the painting and so forth, because we've done quite a bit on kind of the legions we were going to collect, and then we've done quite a bit on some of the initial impressions of the game. So let's get into the kind of painting and modeling side of things and cover that. And then we'll do a little bit of coverage of some events that we've had at the club and some of the games that we've had and kind of how those have gone. So, right, well, here we go. Who wants to go first? I am tempted to pick on James simply because I happen to have the photos of his army in front of me first.
Okay, cool. So I started out strong, managed to convert and paint a unit of 5 destroyers, 5 Terminators, a Contemptor with magnetized weapons, because who doesn't love magnetized weapons, and a Praetor. And that was it. I just teetered off, and I'm not even sure it's a legal army. I got distracted by other shiny things like Iron Warriors and Mechanicum. But I've got on one of the shelves above me a unit of 10 Tactical Marines and Cedras, the Dreadwing character. So there's the hope for future progress, but I don't even know if I've got 1,000 points just yet, which is to my shame. But I think that's going to change come next week.
The spoilers are really nice, though, and I'm looking at the picture now. Can I ask, and I'm sure this is going to be everybody on the internet asking, where did you get all those bolt pistol arms from?
So
they're like gold dust.
So they're conversions. That kit is entirely kit bashed from the plastic Mark III kit. So I cut the arms at the shoulder, just below the shoulder plate, or the and then cut and filed the arms down. So some of them are from the kit itself, because you get the bolt pistol for the sergeant, but the rest of them are conversions of the bolter, where I just cut like about 5 millimeters in the middle and then stripped it down and filed it. So they're mostly all plastic bolt pistols, bolters converted into bolt pistols.
Very nice.
They are gold dust. Ever since they stopped selling the resin despoilers, I think they might still be available. They're just a nightmare to find, so I just thought of finding a stopgap. And I think it works. And a couple of them got hand flamers, because I bought so many Reavers for my Sons of Horus list. I have a ridiculous amount of hand flamers, which is great.
Yeah. Do you want to just remind us briefly of the kind of idea of your army with the Rite of War and so on?
Yeah, so I'm doing Eschaton Imperative, which is the Dreadwing specific Rite of War. So troops choices are destroyers and Dreadwing Interrupters. So that's going to be that unit you see there is a first of 2 units of 10 destroyers. Each one of them is going to be in a Rhino, and then I'm going to have a unit of Dreadwing in a Proteus, which is just because it's great. It's thematic, and I really want to build a Proteus.
Nice.
The Rite of War is pretty brutal. It's the one that allows you to place markers of difficult and dangerous terrain on the table and mess with that kind of thing. The one thing I realized very quickly, though, is that unfortunately destroyers don't count as scoring in the Rite of War still. So I have to take tacticals.
They don't get line.
They don't get line, no. So I have to use the tactical Marines in some capacity. So I'm thinking of just having 2 of them in Rhinos just there to capture objectives.
Well, the great thing, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but the great thing because I've got a Dark Angels army that I bought for a friend at the club, and something I've noticed about them is that because of the hexagrammations or whatever they're called, you can kind of just like tailor each unit. So presumably the tacticals, even with the Eschaton Imperative, can you still take them as, I think it's Stormwing or something, and they get +1 ballistic skill with their bolters. So like they can even be pretty damn good
I don't know whether you can do that or not. I wouldn't want to comfortably say one way or the other without the rulebook right next to me.
I can check. I can check and put it in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. But that would absolutely be something I do. And plus, you get that kind of cool modeling opportunity and painting opportunity of having a unit with separate decals, separate IDs, and I can go for the kind of more knightly aesthetic. So less grimy. Well, I was going to go for clean everything anyway, but even more so because I absolutely adore the sort of classic Dark Angel style of lots of checkers and heraldry, where every squad's got something really distinctly different about them. So the idea is that each unit has got their leader's heraldry attached on them in some way. So it might be a shoulder pad, it might be a decal, and they're all sort of thematically tied together and a bit all over the place.
That's a really good thing to have, because my super grimy dudes, I can't tell the squads apart. I haven't quite worked out how I'm going to fix that. Having identifiable heraldry is probably quite helpful on the table.
Well, I've got to say, I think there's a flip side though, because like you guys saw my Ultramarines, right? And they're covered in checks and heraldry and things like that. Also can't tell the squads apart.
It's too much.
There must be like a healthy middle ground here somewhere. But like I think in your list, like having some tactical squads is going to be really useful anyway, because I played like 3 games now and the tactical squads did the crazy work every time because there's loads of them and there's loads of guns.
I just can't decide whether I want to use I bought the starter set. I've got a lot of Mark 6 Marines that are all headless because I can't decide what legion to use them for. I might do them for Dark Angels because I love that sort of Rogue Trader artwork of Dark Angel beakies where they've got obnoxious heraldry but they're still jet black. But also that wouldn't fit with the rest of the army, which is all in Mark 3. So I'm a bit torn.
It might be a nice way, though, to really emphasize your Dreadwing units, right? Because the whole Dreadwing shtick could be that they've kind of kept their Mark 3 because they want the best protection or whatever they can get. And then maybe having the tacticals in Mark 6, that could be like the thing that makes it really clear visually that they're not part of the Dreadwing.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually.
They need the Mark 3 to cope with all like the poisons, all the phosphax, all the nonsense that you guys are kicking out, poisoning the whole board with. You know, you've got your guys in the armor built to deal with that, and then you've got all the new guys, all the tactical squads who don't have a designation yet in the factory fresh.
I really like that, actually. Yeah, that's a great idea. And plus, I bought the Forge World upgrade kits for Dark Angels, the shoulders and the heads, and they really changed the Mark 6 Marines from beakies to they're really knightly helmets. I love them. Specifically the Sergeant's helmet, which has got wings up on it and a sort of almost like a Crusader era helm cross guard as well, or nose guard as well. They're really cool.
They've got a very strong identity, haven't they, the Dark Angels? The kind of knightly theme runs very strong in them. And as you say, that comes out in the parts.
With the Sergeants, I've got loads of little tiny tilt shields from Titanicus, and I'm going to stick them on one of the shoulders for heraldry as well.
Oh, awesome. I love those
tiny little tilt shields.
That is a great idea. I
Really
like just want to say I really like your Contemptor. I just got a picture of it up here. It's looking really, really nice because this is the resin kit, isn't it, from Forge World? And it's a lovely kit. I really do like the Forge World.
It's a beautiful sculpt,
yeah.
And obviously the pictures don't show it, but there's actually a few little options. So you can change the little symbol in the middle of the torso and one of the knee pads as well. So you get a few ways to customize it. So if I get a second one, I can make it look slightly different. Yeah. And then mix and match it with a plastic Contemptor for a third one if I want.
What's the gun? What's the sort of ray gun type affair? Is that a conversion beamer?
That's a conversion beamer, yes. There's no thought behind it. It might not be competitive, but I just love conversion beamers. They're just brilliant. They are, to me, like the Dreadwing and Dark Angels are all about having the most esoteric and insane weaponry, and conversion beamers are just bafflingly great. And I just love ray guns.
Who doesn't, right? Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you. Let's shuffle on, shall we? Who wants to jump in next? I think next on the old scrolly pictures is Ed. So maybe let's go to Ed.
So I'm doing Loyalist Deathguard, and the main sort of bulk of the army is the stuff from the box. But I got some earlier marks of armor as well. So I, in a kind of similar way that we were talking with James's army, I've got the tactical squads, 20 dudes with chain bayonets, and they're a mix of different armor, and I'm guessing those are the guys who are veterans from Istvan. and I've got the Beakies, which are basically the guys who rescued them, who are like deep space fighters. That's the narrative that I'm going for, is that there were some guys who turned up late to Isfahan, and they were like, we need to get our guys out and then fly off in another direction as quick as we can.
And that's how they survived.
Yeah, that's how they survived. So I've got, like I say, the majority of it is 2 10-man tactical squads, and then 5 support squads that I've finished, a Praetor, a Consul, and I've also got the Dreadnoughts, which I bought beforehand. It's a Troll Soup fan sculpt, which I have here, just summoned from the void. If you can see that, but he's a
I love this guy, he's so old school.
Yeah,
he's
gorgeous in real life.
Yeah.
And did you mention he'd been chunkified?
Yeah, he's bigger. He's bigger than the original sculpt. So that's the main thing that they were going for, was doing something which was closer to the modern scale.
Mm-hmm.
But in every other respect, it's the same as the classic Rogue Trader era dude. So I bought him before I even knew I was going to be doing Heresy stuff. And also got an old Predator, which, it's not the classic one, but it's the next one, the one with the metal add-on bits. So it's not
Pretty
the original
classic,
plastic kit. Yeah, it depends on your classic.
Sort of middle hammery.
Yeah, it's halfway between Old Hammer and Middle Hammer. So I don't know where that.
It's the second edition, that one.
Exactly.
When they separated it out to Predator, Destructor, and Predator Annihilator, and that kit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
also gorgeous.
I do actually happen to have one of the original ones, like the really proper, like the weird sponsons that are like little half circles on like a dome turret. It's painted and converted awfully into some old scheme that I had when I was like 13 or something, but I'm thinking of digging it out and stripping it and using it for Heresy.
They work. I mean, I love the old RTB1 minis, and at some point I'm going to try and put that together for an army. But with this, which is primarily from the new models, peppering in some of the old bits works, I think. So I've got Sergeant, one of the Power Fists, is the old Rogue Trader one. I've got some of the old chain bayonets, which are from the old plastic kits. Both of those you really wouldn't be able to tell because they were so massive when they made them originally. So I've got 1,250 points, which is enough to do for the event that we'll talk about in a bit. Got them up to tabletop standards, lots of dry brushing and then washes and contrasts and stuff. And I want to go back over them to do some of the details, but I've managed to get the mob bulk of them at least ready enough until I transition from the void that I'm currently in into my new Terran dwelling, which I'm basically moving house. So chances of me getting putting the cat out of the bag, but the chances of me getting any hobbying done over the next couple of weeks are probably.
I think just one thing I'd like to say about Ed's stuff before we move on is just I really like the couple of conversions you've got. I think you mentioned the one where you've got the old RTOB, whatever his name is, guy who usually has a disruptor, but you give him a power fist, then you give him the disruptor to like another Mark III guy. Yeah, those look really cool. So just wanted to pick those out.
And he's my named consul. He's Ignir Talismand. He's my point of view character for the campaign because he's just got a disintegrator gun. And I thought, okay, this is this twisted guy who sorry. We could go into lore, but like we've been talking about doing narrative for this whole thing, and I've wanted to have, rather than the general being my point of view character, whenever I do a little bit of text, it's this weirdo consul who's got a whole list of problems, and and gradually through the campaign he gets more and more weird, and until the end he's like the leader of the Black Shields. Spoilers. And he basically flips out and decides to create his own little empire. But he's a guy sort of gleefully wielding this disintegrator gun.
Do you want Sam to like bleep all the spoilers out in the edit?
Skip to time spot.
Yeah. I think what we should do is next time we come together, let's do the kind of spotlight maybe in that session on like lore, because we've had a bit of time. I haven't worked mine up too much. You guys are a bit ahead of me on that. Let's go to Aaron's army because I think we're already stumbling into it.
I have done a lot. We'll put it like that. I think
Shady.
I really dove into this because I just started enjoying the beakies a lot. Like, I think last time when we were talking about it, I'd got some ideas about what I wanted to do with the army and how I wanted to paint them, and I'd maybe put together like 5 beakies or something. Then we had this event, and I suddenly had to get like 30 of them done to a standard I was happy with, and now suddenly all 40 of them are gone. There's like another 20, power armor guys on the go. I'm looking at my next batch paint nightmare. Loads. So I've got 2 big tactical squads are done. I've got a nice squad of Praetorian breachers that I've just got the bits and just put together another 5 for. So while everybody tells me they're not as good as the other Ultramarine infantry, the suzerains, because they probably aren't, and they're almost as expensive as them. Doesn't matter. I love them. They're great fun. Yeah, and then dreads. And I just started getting really excited. And I wrote lore. And I bought female head marines, female space marine heads. I've got Space Crusade guys, and I've got 2 rogue trader guys. And it's awesome. It's just a really great project. I'm really, really enjoying it. And I've completely freed myself from the tyranny of painting with a brush. Right, I do the checks with a brush.
Yeah.
But I mainly paint with a sponge. So I don't like the airbrush aesthetic. I think the airbrush aesthetic has been bad for Warhammer painting. So now I paint with a chunk of sponge.
It's been bad.
And then I do
I'm
checks.
interested on that. Why do you think that? Because you think the airbrush leads people go for stuff that's like too smooth, or just is too.
I just think like
I don't know.
there's lots of styles that work with, and this is entirely my personal opinion here, like obviously, and therefore has no objectivity whatsoever. To me, like 40k is such like a grimy, disgusting fantasy world, and not just with the stuff that John Blanche is doing, but all the other rogue trader art that isn't John Blanche is even weirder and more horrible, and the realm of chaos art and stuff. And none of that to me has the aesthetic of a guy painting like a wizard fighting a dragon on the side of a van with an airbrush. Do you know what I mean? Like that's its own aesthetic. Works great for loads of stuff, but I like everything to look filthy and for painting to look messy. Like lenses, I don't do the line and the shadow and the dot. I put white on and then I hit them with red glaze, like Homer shooting the makeup gun at the wall. Boom.
And it's done.
And it's done. And like, I think they look pretty good. And then I do all my tiny little details and my heraldry and my checks, and then I get another sponge and I just half obliterate all that hard work.
Well, it clearly works.
My high horse there, man.
Well, it clearly works because they look great. And we'll come to it in the event section. But Aaron got special mention for his army because it looks so good. And I must admit, in particular, I really really like your squad of, I don't know what they're called, but they're kind of like breachers with power weapons, and they look fucking boss. And they're quite hard to kill actually in the game as well. They took quite a bit of punishment before they went down.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not that killy.
No,
is what I learned. I thought, these guys are gonna wreck face. Power swords, big shields. No, just
power swords are
swords,
not as scary as you think they're going to be, are they?
Yeah.
I bet they'll wreck a tactical squad. That's for sure.
They did do that. They took out a big Emperor's Children tactical squad, which was very satisfying. But yeah, plans are afoot to get the upgraded the suzerain sword axe and board guys that Ultramarines have. But for that, I'm going to need a lot of Custodes bits and a hacksaw. So that's the plan, is basically to downscale. Everyone's upscaling and true scaling. I'm going to downscale some Custodes.
I love how you're so contrary. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, airbrushes are the new painting tool. You're like, no, fuck it, I just want sponge. Everyone's like true scaling, upscaling, and you're like, no, you guys are wrong. I'm downscaling Custodes.
He's a hipster.
He is. Well, he doesn't want to be told what to do.
I like my Marines small, right? I stand a short king. I love Space Crusade Marines, Rogue Trader Marines.
Yeah.
Beaky Marines are too big for me. They're too big. I'm an old man. I like my Marines small.
In the tunnels of Calth, there's no point being tall, right?
Exactly. You've got to be 25 mil
You might want to cut me trying to find an epic space marine that I have. Because I realised I have some. And it's like, is this small enough for you?
Well,
Yeah,
there we go. That'd be great. Put it on a base. Get it out there.
He's taking his pet for a walk.
So to wind that bit up, so in terms of points wise, whereabouts do you reckon you're at?
Well, I'm doing
squads? Maybe just run through the list of what you've painted.
Oh, okay. So I've got Praetor, Librarian, did work.
Yeah, he was good.
Telepathy Librarian, just broken. 2 10-man tactical squads, 1 turning into a 15. The Breachers, 2 Contempt Dreads, 2.5 Contempt Dreads, a Leviathan Dread, Recon Marines, some other stuff. I'm doing a 2,000 point game on Sunday, so hopefully on Sunday, at least 2k points painted with a sponge and a house brush.
It's impressive. You've made the most progress out of all of us.
Because I didn't play all the games. I missed out on the games that you guys were having for like various ridiculous reasons. So I just sat and painted sad and alone.
Just you and your sponge.
Instead, yeah, me and my sponge and my short kings.
Are we talking like is it important question? Is it a blister pack sponge or a bathroom sponge?
It's the more expensive version. It's the pluck and play foam from a Feldherr miniatures case. But I don't know where the case is, but I know where all the foam is. But there is a really ancient blister pack sponge on my desk, but I haven't used that yet. It's waiting for a special mini.
Do sponges have grain? Would that be the way to describe it?
Sure.
Apparently they do. Yeah, just looking at
the algorithm's going to love us talking about sponge grain. I think
it's going to be like, what is this video about?
This is the content we want. 2022 is all about sponge, valuing the grains of sponges.
Deep sponge lore.
100%.
I think this is to sort of somehow name the episode. I'm going to have some sort of play on SpongeBob SquarePants and Warhammer. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, but that's going to be the thumbnail. That's going to be the thumbnail.
No, I think deep sponge lore.
Deep sponge lore. I think it's good. I think people will hit that NF like and subscribe button for the deep
video. Deep sponge lore.
Deep sponge lore. Oh, save me.
This is where Aaron creates an entire thing about Mechanicus factory that paints by sponges, and they use an STC of a sponge maker.
I'm actually
ties all our lore together.
I should actually say I am going one step beyond sponge painting.
Jumpy and saxophone solo for madness.
Well, the half Contemptor that I've half painted, and it's half because you've got the other leg.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the big white patch on it is going to be as if it's handprints. So I've done the middle, and now I need to go around the outside and do palm, thumb, occasional finger.
Interesting.
You're doing that?
I'm doing it because I'm crazy, but I've made it. I'm making a tiny little green stuff hand that I'm going to dab in.
So I did something similar for my Lord of the Rings Isengard army a very long time ago, where the old zombie kit, or maybe it was a skeleton, came with a banner that had 2 hands on a stick, and I cut the hand off and put it on a pin, and then I was just dabbing the heads of Uruk-hai with this like tiny plastic hands, and Saruman marks you.
Did it work? Because I have that. Yeah, I have that piece in my bit.
It worked to 13-year-old me. So if that's the style you're going for,
it is actually. It's on my to-do. 13-year-old James. There we go. Thank you.
It's the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I love how every time we have all these conversations, at least several problems are solved. It seems to be one of those, kind of things where it's like, oh, what should I do this? How should I do that? And then it, generally seems to find some sort of solution for it.
Mm-hmm. The more you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
We need that. Put that in the edit.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
And then what you should do is find a table of sponge grains, and then just put it at the end.
Just an appendix to the. It's like an appendix to the video. Yeah. Just for
sign up to the Patreon to get the real info on which sponge is best.
Yeah.
Just to the sponge painting thing, though, I've seen some really good tutorials and stuff for like stippling as well recently.
I
And
love
like,
stippling.
I'm actually really tempted the next time. I think not for this army because I've already started doing it in one style, but I think maybe the next army I do, I might stipple it because the results are really great and it looks really quite easy.
Yeah.
It is. It's exceptionally easy.
Sons of Horus, basically, where I am is I've got the 2 tactical squads done. So that's 20 guys basically, and these are the sort of Chad scale kind of guys who are, I think they're about the size of Primaris Marines, so about 40 mil. And then I couldn't stop the temptation to do the like classic, what I think of as like the classic 40k base that I've never done on any of my miniatures before, which is where you get the base and you stick them on, you tie up a bit of cork tile and or a few bits of cork tile and put some rubble on it and stuff, and then you stick them on it, and then suddenly they've gained like about 5mm in height, and you just have the they look kind of cool, but like they're slightly ridiculous at the same time because they kind of have like these little, they're all got these like little plinths, but it's, I don't know, it's a very 40k thing that I've seen that people do, and I thought I've never done that before, so I'm going to try this different basing technique and see how it goes.
Well, don't do yourself short, man, because they don't just look pretty cool. They look rad. They look really great, and the bases look fantastic. The way you've tied them in with the dust, the variation in the greens, all that, they look really good.
They are absolute units, though. Just putting them next to a regular tactical marine and they tower over them. It's great.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and find a scale comparison shot to put on screen for people. But they are not just taller, but also just chunkier in general. They're just thicker, thick with 2 C's. But anyway, so I've got 2 squads done now, which took a while, but I'm there. What I realised I haven't done is, whilst I've done sergeants, although my sergeants are just bolt gun guys, because I probably will do some alternative sergeants with power fists, but I kind of like the idea. I like to be able to have the option is to run the squad as like a completely basic 100 points, no frills, just bolt guns unit, because for list building, I think it's quite helpful to be able to do that. But I am going to do a couple of alternative sergeants with power fists, and I am going to do some Vexillas, partly because I really want to do some of the cool like handheld Vexillas, like with the flagpole, which apparently are a novelty thing in Heresy. But like when I saw there was a thing that was a Vexilla, my automatic thing in my head was, well, of course it's a guy with a standard, a Vexilla, but apparently that's unusual and a different thing that you have to convert. But anyway, that'll be really easy to do. So I'm going to get some guys and do some guys with some Vexillas, and I might do the augury scanner and the nuncio box, but I'm not sure yet because I don't. To be honest, I'm not sure they're worth the points.
No way! That's so worth the points.
They are
so worth the points.
Yeah,
10,
absolutely.
10 points. It's mental. 10 points to do a free shooting in reaction when somebody deep strikes.
But you can do 3 anyway.
Good. Yeah.
So like all the scanner does is mean that you can do more than 3 of those,
which is pretty hot. Like
it's good.
It's also the infiltration thing as well, which is pretty useful. Do they do that?
Effects on night fighting, like.
If those Night Lords turn up, you can be like, no, augury scanners.
Although Night Lords, I think the problem is that the bolt guns are in 24-inch range, right? And the scanner only goes out to 24. So, like, I can see the point of the augury scanner on a squad that has a weapon that has a very long range, but with the bolt guns, it just feels a bit short-ranged. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The internet seems to think that they're really good, so probably I should just bow to that knowledge.
The antennae snap off, though. That's the plastic kits. The antennae just, you look at it funny and you go, you know.
Yeah. I think you're right though about having the alternatives with the sergeants as well. I think it's a good way to do it, and you can have the alternatives with the extra kit guys as well, right? Like part of the painting that I'm doing over the next week is to do that, to take each tactical squad up to 20, but that's 23 basically. With
oh wow, okay, so we're going to go 20 plus options. I'm probably not going to have that many tacticals because I just, in the army lists that I find I sort of building in my head, I just don't see having loads of them, but I definitely want to take them so I can take 2 full squads of 10 with the option, with all the options. So that's what, like 3 or 4 options per squad. So it does, you're right, it kind of takes them up quite a bit. It means I could run probably like 30 odd tacticals if I ran them with like all the models in the squads. So that's where I am. Paint wise, it's been a bit of a journey. I've gone through quite a few test models, which in the end I was like, I'm just going to use all these test models and just base them up, and they look fine. I've kind of settled now on a scheme which is probably not the best looking of the options that I have, but it is one of the quicker versions. I've sort of had to make a bit of a compromise between what looks best versus what I can actually just do. So I think I've kind of found a place now where I'm kind of happy with it and can kind of churn through them like relatively quickly. using, it's mainly, you know, like oils and stuff to kind of make them look a bit weathered and all that kind of thing. So what I also have got kicking around is I've got some Reavers that I've just kit bashed using some bits and bobs and some files and some parts. So I'm going to be doing, I've only got a few of those done at the moment, but I need to do some more. So the idea is I'm going to have a couple of squads of Reavers of 10. I've just today, hot off the press, seen that they've updated the expanded PDF thing so that you can now take Reaver Aggressor squads, which are the jump pack versions, as troops with line as part of the Black Reaving. And that is really cool and is actually genuinely big news. So my guys are getting a retrofit, which is that they're going to be, you know, they're losing their power packs and they're going to be getting jump packs. I think the thing with these guys is that I'm fundamentally sort of trying to take units that aren't particularly amazing and sort of try and squash them into an army that works. The Justarian are objectively really good. I haven't started on yet. Yet, but I'm planning to do a squad of probably of 10, but I most often probably run them as 5 or 6 because 10 is just too expensive points wise. But those guys have 3 attacks each and weapon skill 5, and they can have basically whatever equipment they like. So you can give them thunder hammers. They smash. And they have Bane Strike bolter rounds, which is shorter range but slightly more powerful. And they did absolute work against Aaron's Ultramarines, although we're straying slightly into territory now. We'll come back. Hold that thought. We'll come back there in a minute. But to sum up, so basically the army hopefully is going to be some Justarian, a bunch of Reavers, possibly some Seeker squads. I've bought some Beaky Marines, some of the plastic Beakies. And what I'm doing at the moment is just true scaling them by extending the torsos at the abdomen. And converting the bolt guns into sniper rifles. So to be honest, I just fancied doing some kit bashing, and I really wanted to use the actual plastic Beakies. I know I've gone with the kind of, you know, Chaz Gale guys, but I thought for the recon squad, it made good sense for them to be in like slightly less hench armor. So I've managed to get them into a position where they're the same height with the true scaling, but they're like a bit slighter. But I think for like recon armor or something, it works quite well. And for the Mark 6, right, that was basically introduced as like recon armor. I think in the fluff, it's like now it's meant to be like sensors and stuff. So basically what we did at the club, so one of our local organizers, Toby, basically who seems to organize lots of things at the club, big kind of play events. So, you know, hats off to him. He does a brilliant job at them. He put together a Horus Heresy narrative weekend at the end of August, the battle for Drooth. And basically it was, what would you say? Maybe like 16 players, something like that. Was it 16, 20 players? It was sort of like a medium-ish sized event. And we all played 3 games each at 1250 points. So it was a kind of lowish points bar, introductory. You know, the idea really was to kind of get people into the game, get them playing, and kind of using their armies in whatever state of kind of painting that they were. And kind of, you know, a generally relatively non-competitive atmosphere. There were some restrictions on lists. Things like no more than 1 contemptor, just to try and make things a bit more kind of balanced and so on. So anyway, we all went, and I don't know about you, but I thought it was a really fun day.
It was, yeah.
And actually, playing 3 games at 1250 is quite a nice level to play at, because it means that you don't feel you can actually do a 1250 point game in a couple of hours and not feel too rushed. I wouldn't have wanted to play, particularly with how well people knew the rules at the place, and I didn't know them very well at all. I wouldn't have wanted to play like a big 2,500 point game because I just wouldn't have got anywhere near it through it. I don't know about you guys. What was your experience like?
I really loved it. Managed to meet some people, see everybody's armies. Managed to play with you, Simon, you, James, and just it was a really, really good time. Met some people that I'd only known on the internet before, which was really good as well. I had a blast.
So we all had 3 games, didn't we? And so my first game was an Ultramarines game against Willard, who is Willard's he's a lovely guy to play. You know, he's a really fun guy, but you know, he's quite good. And to be fair to him, I must admit, he helped me quite a lot in terms of, you know, saying like, you want to do this, or you want to, you know, go over it. Yeah. So, you know, I can't fault him at all for sportsmanship, but his Ultramarine list was actually surprisingly quite tough, and taught me the value of Volkite Culverins, which on paper look rubbish. They don't sound that great, but then you actually play against them in a game and they're really, really useful. And I actually took a squad of them in a game that me and Ed and James played, where James brought his mechanic. This was not at the event, where James brought his Mechanicum and me and Ed were using our Marines. And they were really, really useful in that. So a takeaway from me is that, you know, not always what looks necessarily amazing on paper, because it's got like the highest strength or the best AP. Sometimes just volume of shots and a decent strength, like it's enough. and they did some serious work. That was quite an interesting game. And then me and Aaron had a game, which was great fun. It was nice to kind of, how that came up. And I must admit, we just did absolute work on each other's armies. I think like a lot of the other games, apparently, I don't know, like people had quite a lot left on the table, or like maybe they were kind of holding back. There was no holding back. We just basically went into a massive pile in the middle of the table. The Just Aaron did a lot of work against your Terminators and Elites and wrecked their faces. Your Dreadnought just tore apart 2 of my tactical squads limb from limb. It was just horrific to see.
He had a good tournament, my Contemptor. In the end, it did 3 Contemptors and 3 tactical squads over 3
and he did my Contemptor in as well. Yeah. He took my Contemptor down.
What's he got? What have you loaded him out with?
Double melter, big melter, little melter, and it's just really, really nice.
It's the way
you fire the big melter, and then you fire the little melter, and then you hit them with a fist, and it's like just great.
I think conversations I've been having with folks at the event was like Contemptors. Oh, you bog them down if you've got a Contemptor coming at you. You throw a tactical squad at them, they'll be locked in combat for ages, and that's sort of the way that you deal with it. It's not much fun for the tactical squad. But eventually, whereas your Contemptor's just mowing through stuff.
It was just tearing tactical squads apart.
Really?
Tears them apart, shoots them up.
I think ultimately what it comes down to is how good you are at taking morale checks. But what happened in our game, and I don't know, I would have thought this is fairly typical though, is that your tactical squad gets charged by the Contemptor, they shoot at it or whatever they want to do, and nothing happens. The Contemptor runs in, kills 2 or 3 of them in close combat. They attack back, probably do nothing. They win. The Contemptor then wins the combat by 2 or 3, especially because I didn't have a Vexilla, so that's probably my own fault there. At which point you're taking a morale test at -2 or 3, so you're down from leadership 8 to like leadership 6 or leadership 5. So you're out of there.
And you've sniped out the sergeant in each squad before you put the Contemptor in. That's the thing with the you've got to have Contemptor, Nemesis Bolter, team up, take the sergeant out, take the Vexilla out, hit them with a Contemptor. Rinse and repeat. Just try and do that several times.
Yeah. What it's taught me basically
crazy
is
about Dreadnoughts.
what you really want in a tactical squad, if you're going to be coming up against Contemptors, which seems pretty likely anywhere, you really just want a sergeant with a power fist and melter bombs, and he can hide in that squad whilst all the squad mates die. And like he's not going to kill the Contemptor probably, but like at least he can like chip away at it and like do some damage.
I think the thing that you need, it's like that horrible thing that Americans say, right? The only thing that stops a bad guy with a Contemptor is a good guy with another Contemptor.
With a Leviathan.
Yeah. So I think until the inevitable FAQ comes and they get put down to a 3-up save or something like that.
Well, with Biden in the White House, I mean...
anything might happen, right? Student loan forgiveness one day, Contemptors get a 3-up the next day. Who knows? But I think that having a Contemptor in your back pocket is a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. And the final game we played was unfortunately Ed wasn't part of this one, but it was the 3 of us otherwise were in a big because the last round was a doubles round. We were in a big game with another clubmate called Vincent, and that was great fun. It was basically an infantry horde clash, and Toby had kind of, I think, specifically engineered it so that we didn't just get stuck up against some like big tank army that would have just minced us. He stuck all the infantry in one game, and it was quite a hilarious sort of clash of these massed sort of infantry lines. I must admit, I got my butt kicked by flamethrowers. Salamanders jumped out with their crazy incinerator things, and all my tactical squads got melted. So it was quite fun, but I must admit not successful. My Justarian, I managed to keep on failing their reserve rolls despite the re-rolls from the Master of Signal, so they sort of stayed off the table. So, had fun, but it was definitely more, I think, James and Aaron who were doing the work.
Take it away, James, because I just sat there the whole game and just got absolutely pulped.
I played Iron Warriors for that game and just basically, apart from the Tactical Marines, sat back with Tyrant Siege Terminators deleting a unit a turn. It was gross. And at some points, deleting a unit in the opponent's turn. Firing back as a shooting reaction with Tyrants, then using the Iron Warriors with bitter fury, and then, not great.
There's an interesting thing that happens, and I think probably everyone's noticed it by now with the reactions. I'm still a massive fan of the reactions, but what you do notice is that what you really want in your army is a unit that's quite big, full of really powerful, like good long range firepower. And the problem is then your enemy's just stuck on the horns of a dilemma, which is that they either ignore them, often the best tactic, and just get hit once a turn by some massive, like, template or something, or massive attack. Or the alternative is to try and shoot at them, in which case you just get to shoot with your best unit lots of times.
I think they call that the tyrant problem.
I'm certainly calling it that from now on.
Because that unit did its job. It's just ridiculously fun to use as a unit. There's just something as an Iron Warrior that speaks to the core of me, firing that many missiles and that many rockets.
I don't know, Ed, did you have anything you wanted to chuck in on the games front?
Well, I was on one of the other tables for the final game, and it was 2 versus 1. So Chris, who had a word bearers army, he brought excess points. So he had a big force, and me and another guy that I've not played with before. He was White Scars, and having said that 1,250 points works well, it also, I think the games that were bigger were also fun, as you guys found, and we had a good time. Speeders, I guess that was the one thing that I discovered. There was a speeder with a melter cannon, which some kind of melter, what's it anyway? I think probably a cannon. Anyway, managed to get one of his dreadnoughts in like turn 1. So that was surprisingly effective. I don't know, it's just because he rolled well. My Praetor got torn apart by a word bearer's Leviathan. So that's a key part of. You're not going to forget that in a hurry. The big games were as fun as the regular size games.
Hey guys, welcome to the end screen. A new video will come up from YouTube. Go on, click it, you know you want to.